Hello, my little draconic wolfkins. I hope that you're all doing well. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to my channel. Alright, let's get into it. This event that happened very recently, and it was probably the single most terrifying experience in my entire life. I had just graduated college in the Midwest and received an offer from a major bank in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thus, the most logical next step for me was to search for housing options in the Charlotte area. Just a couple days after graduation, my father and I flew to Charlotte and stayed in the hotel that was both near the airport and downtown Charlotte. It was an area that was in the midst of being gentrified, mixing homeless crackheads, and young professionals all in one place. There was a there was rundown stores and old ranch houses, but there was also newly built townhouses and beautiful shopping centers close by. While there were times that I felt unsafe in the area, it didn't seem like anything serious would happen other than a random harassment from the homeless that roamed the streets. The hotel was really nice, which was surprising for a building that had been there for a for the gentrification begun. Breakfast was provided, the rooms were clean, and the lobby had multiple places to relax or do work. While the hallways of the hotel definitely looked like they were from the back rooms, I felt safe within the confines of the building. At least I thought so. My father had to cut our 4-day trip to Charlotte short since family emergency occurred. He fall he allowed me to stay in the city for one more day while he took the next flight out to make it back home as soon as possible. I was completely fine with that. And for the last day, I explored the city and searched for more housing options alone. When I got back to the hotel that night, I took some time to relax, watching TV, YouTube videos, and listening to music. By 12 a.m., I was pretty exhausted and turned off the lights and closed the blinds, flopping down in the bed with both of my AirPods in. I spent the next couple of minutes listening to music as I drifted to sleep. I woke up at around 3 a.m. to knocking on my door. I could only hear it because the music on my AirPods had stopped as my playlist had reached its end. I wasn't sure what was happening or what I was hearing for a couple of minutes as I was still in a stupor after waking up. I took out my AirPods trying to make out the noise that was coming from the door. Knock, 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 knock. I thought it was room service or hotel management probably just checking up on me since my father left, who booked the room, was gone. No, it couldn't have been. Who in their right mind would check on someone in the middle of the night? Knock, 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 knock. Maybe it was someone who was locked out of their room and thought my room was their own. But that seemed impossible as well. There was only 3 floors in this hotel. Bang, 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 bang. The person was now slamming their fist against the door now. I was scared now, and I could only hope that the person would get tired and move on after a couple of more minutes. The knocking continued while the occasional banging against the door and the finagling of the door handle. I was terrified now. not just because of the persistence of the person trying to get into my room, but also because I heard absolutely nothing else from the door. There was no breathing despite the heavy slamming of the door, nor was there any word spoken. If it was room service, if it was room service, they would have announced it so. If it was someone who mistook my room for theirs, I was expecting some sort of dialogue like mom, dad, brother, sister, honey, but I heard absolutely nothing but the insistent knocking and banging of my hotel room door. Bang, 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 knock, 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 knock. For nearly an hour, that person wouldn't stop. Now I wasn't even sure if it was a real person. Any human would have moved on by now. Any human would have spoken some words by now. Any human would have taken a breath by now. I didn't want to make my way. I didn't want to make my way towards the door to check on the person, since there was a slit under the door that could have allowed someone from the side of the door to notice that there was someone on the other side. Instead, I hid behind the bed, hoping to God that this thing wouldn't get into my room. Bang, 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 knock, 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 knock. By 4:10 a.m., I had reached my limit. I just wanted to go to bed. I just wanted to feel safe again. There seemed to be no end of the knocking or slamming or finagling. The person on the side never paused, and I never had a feeling of respite. There, I thought they would leave or take a couple of minutes to rest. I wanted it to end, and I thought calling the police would do that. However, I didn't want to reveal the fact that I was in the room, so I texted 911. There was someone trying to break into my room. The cursed signal couldn't get through. My message wouldn't send, and all I could do was look hopelessly at the green bar, trying to reach. The end of the banging got louder and louder, but no matter how much I stared at the message, it wouldn't go. I was at my wits' end, and I gave up on secrecy. I dialed 911, and the dispatcher immediately picked up the phone. She asked so many questions, so many of which I couldn't answer. I didn't know what the person looked like. I didn't know what the person wanted. All I knew was that I was stuck in a hotel in Charlotte with someone or something relentlessly knocking and banging at my door. I believe that as soon as I began speaking, the banging got dramatically louder. The person on the other side was now pounding and pounding, and I could imagine him or her just swinging her entire arm against the door or kicking and kicking relentlessly at it. My voice was shaking and my eyes were watering, but I was still in my right mind and able to confirm my location to the dispatcher as she could send police my way. She ended the call, and the knock and banging continued for a few more minutes, but then it fell silent. I just knelt there behind the bed, shaking, waiting for the knocking to return and for the police to come. After maybe 5 minutes of silence, I had the gall to stand up and walk towards the blinds, hoping to see police cruisers swerve in the cul-de-sac of the hotel. I waited 5 more minutes, and the tension slowly dissipate as I saw the Charlotte police. They were That was the only knocking that night I was happy to hear. The police told me that they searched the building and the surrounding area for any suspicious individuals. Unfortunately, both the police and me there didn't see any security cameras near my room since I was on the far side of the hotel. To this day, I have no clue who or what was knocking on my door, but I am glad that it never got what it wanted. Holy shit, that is terrifying.